Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How we doing today, Joe?
I'm just a little shocked here. I thought for sure you'd be well, I wrote a song about it. Here, let me start. Cory fought the law and the law won. Cory fought the law and the law won. Had to go to court and pay some cash, but they boot him and he's out on his ash. See, I didn't get that last part right. I thought for sure you would be locked up by now. Telling Bubba that yes, you would be his biatch.
No. Just had to pay a fine.
Really?
Yep, today was court day. I had to go in and deal with my ticket for my car accident. And it's pretty much, what's the best way to put it? Vending machine. You go in, they have you sign some papers, you talk to the prosecutor. Actually, I talked to a prosecutor who was a student lawyer. They say, okay, this is what we're going to do if you plead guilty. It's a ticket. I did it. I pled guilty. And it's good that I did because the judge actually saw the accident on his way to work.
Really? Oh.
Yes.
Did he say that? Or
yes.
I mean, after you just came and pled guilty, and he said, well, it's a good thing you did.
No, he, because, you go in, they read the charges, and he says, well, what happened? And I explained, I came to the intersection, I looked right, I looked left, and I turned to go. I should have looked right a second time. And he said, oh, and was there somebody injured? I said, yeah, I don't know the details, but last I heard he had a broken leg. And the judge said, where was that? And I said, at the Super America, blah, blah, blah. And he said, oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Oh. And what were you thinking? Oh, fudge.
For me, it was like, oh, man.
I just can't take a break.
Was this thing on TV? But no, I paid a fine, and as long as I don't have any more tickets in the next year, it gets erased from my record.
No, actually, I was referring to that last month. The website hosting provider DreamHost had to cough up exact information about more than 1 million people who were listed as being like anti-Trump. They actually got a judge order that made DreamHost hand it over. So I thought for sure you'd get swept up in that. But
no, I didn't hear about that. But I know that they're looking for anti-Trump people. And as we all know, one of my podcasts 2.5 years ago, got Donald Trump to block me.
Yeah. Oh, I think you're already on top of the list. So one of these days it'll be, let me practice. Welcome once again to our Crazy Stories and podcast. I'm your solo host, Crazy Joe. Cory is still, this is day 342 of him, his sudden disappearance. But I'm willing to continue the podcast as long as you're willing to listen. I don't like that.
Yeah, you got it wrong.
Well, we'll have to have you, see, I got it wrong. It'll have to be like, this is Cory podcasting from an undisclosed location. I can't talk long, but on the other end of this, how you doing, Cory? Shh, not so loud. So it could happen. Or we could just say F all that and just talk comic books.
Well, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, because I got my box last week.
Ooh, you did?
I did, and I haven't read a single thing out of it.
I don't know if that's good or not.
As you know, there was a MCBA Fall Comic Con that I went to. Now, I have to tell you something. This is just between you, me, and our how many people listen to us?
A bajillion.
Yeah, this is a secret because I called in sick to work. So if anybody asks, Joe he was home sick, okay? Which isn't too far from the truth because I was feeling bad on
You
Sunday.
were feeling bad about being there.
Well, actually, I did for a bit, but I went in, and then on Sunday when I woke up, I actually felt bad. I mean, I felt bad when I went to the con physically because you feel that con crud coming, and I was like, well, shit, I'm not even at the con, and I'm feeling sick. And then I got up and I just did what I normally do, shit, shower, shave, take some caffeine, get dressed, and then if I still feel bad, stay home. But as you know, with the strangeness, the way the government pays holidays, is that today, as we record this is Columbus Day, or as my good buddy Turbo would say, Indigenous People Day. And I get holiday pay, but I get it on the last day I work. Now, had I called in sick on Sunday, I would have just gotten that as a freebie day. They wouldn't have taken sick time. They wouldn't have taken vacation time, but they wouldn't have paid me holiday pay. So my wife, I said, well, how about if you just drive me to work, and then I'll be there all day without the idea that, okay, my car is just a train right away and I can go home anytime I want. So not only you get 25%, but I get the holiday pay, but unfortunately now, it's Monday and I'm still feeling under the weather, but boy, has my wife got the cold from hell. Holy moly. I got to sleep on the couch. And that ties into hip watch, but I'm
And
going
you
to wait
didn't
till
get paid for it.
peaking for that.
When I
For
get,
what?
when I sleep on a couch, I
Oh,
get
that's
paid.
true. And I didn't get paid when I went to MCBA FallCon either.
Oh,
But I had a blast. It was a lot of fun. For the most part, I basically took it easy because, again, it's concrete floor, and Lord knows my hip's killing me. And I just sat at the front door and with my old partner Pat. He took the cash, or ran the credit card on the neat little smart machine they have. Boy, those things are neat. I mean, we've seen them at small stores when we go geeking. I would probably, I had an old fashioned big ass cash register that I bought used, and one lesser one new that I bought when I opened up the small store. But now you got these fully computerized things. You can swipe cards, you can take cash. They run a cash drawer, and it gives you a Z tape if you need it. We used one at the charity table when it comes up. So he ran that. I gave out slips and I gave out the flyer. They did a really, really nice guest list and location guide, which would spread out into the famous guest map, which I'm sure you remember from all the cons you worked.
oh yeah.
And everything was alphabetical, and then you could go from there. And say I wanted to find out if Dana's friend Caitlin Prosy was there. Well, she was there on B1K. Then you could go find her. Or I checked, and it was our good friend of the show, Terrence Greep, there? And he was. I actually had a nice conversation with him. He talked about some of the upcoming work. He's trying to get back into comics because he's been doing so much pro wrestling. It's kind of, he says it's kind of hurt his comic writing. But on the other hand, he did just choose to come to the comic show rather than drive up to Hibbing and do a wrestling match. So it was nice to see him. And then surprise, I didn't realize Pete Krause was there.
Yes.
Had I been paying attention, I mean, I was looking on the website and I said I was happy to see you were here, but I would have hit him up a couple months ago because of all the artists that I've met and known. I have yet to get a Supergirl art from him. So I could have done that. I did get a really nice one from Ali Garcia. I think, is that how you say his name? Garcia. Did a really nice sketch of Supergirl. And sooner or later, I'll get it up on the Facebook page. I still don't have the one from Angel Medina from 2 spring cons ago that he put up. But the con was they didn't have a big line in the beginning. There was a big pre-ticket line, so people are finally getting the word, that's the way to go. Save $2 and you get in a lot quicker. But people came in steady. I think because it was so freaking cold out in the morning. At least it seemed that way. Where we were sitting, the building had a negative flow, so we were getting cold air blowing in on us constantly. But when I finally walked outside, I was like, okay, it's 43 degrees outside, but there's no wind. So it felt good. A lot of events going on in the fairground. They had Oktoberfest up at the Progressive Center, and of course, Half Price had their huge blowout sale at the grandstand, where books were like $2 a paperback,
Nope,
$5 hard.
Dollar for a paperback and $2 for a hardcover.
Yeah, and I didn't go because I didn't have a lot of money, uh, and I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna take it easy. I could have gone, I suppose, early Saturday, but I decided not to. I just take it easy. Spent a lot of money at the con. Really packed. I mean, once everybody was in, and Pat and I, we basically sat at the front for about 3 hours. We got up, walked around, and we sat for another 2 hours. Anytime I started getting a little sore in the hips, I just sat down, took it easy. Uh, I only brought about $100 because I figured if I brought it, I always say, okay, I'm only going to bring 200, 300, 600. If I bring it, I'm going to spend it. So I just thought, okay, I'm going to be tight. I'm not going to spend much. Still got a pile of stuff. And I'll share some of the fun stuff I got. Not, I think it's Comic College had those photo guides to comics,
Oh
volumes
yeah.
1 and 2 for $10 a piece.
Holy cats!
I know, and I have number 1, which was kind of funny because it was one that I had at the shop, Hot Comics. I donated to the con, and then it got donated back, and I think I ended up winning it at one of the art auctions. And so I kept it. And then now I got volume 2. And when I bought it, I was like, oh, please, 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 I want to make sure I got volume 2. And I did. And I figured even if I hadn't, it would just go to the con guys. From Steve Brown, he had a ton of graphic novels again. I picked up Starlord, Guardians of the Galaxy, which basically covers all of the Starlord stories up to the 1996 miniseries.
Yeah.
And this is all stuff from Marvel Premiere, or Marvel Preview, Marvel Super Special, Marvel Spotlight, back when he was more of a science fiction type guy.
And a real jerk.
Yeah.
If you read those stories, he is an unlikable character. And it's also got the first time that John Byrne, Chris Claremont, and Terry Austin worked together.
I'm not even sure if I have this, because this looks like a book that I would have bought. And if I have it, it's buried. But I figured for what he was selling it for, I'd pick it up. I talked about Terrence before, and I picked up a copy of Champions number 61, which he had a story in it. It wasn't the one where he appeared as Spider Baby, but I figured, hey, as long as you wrote it, I would pick it up. I picked up a 0 issue of the Beatles' Yellow Submarine, that graphic novel that came out that we've raved about from Titan. I didn't realize they had this comic, and I'm looking at it just now for the first time. And this is kind of a preview artwork, interview with Morrison. Might be everything that's in the book, but what the heck? It's a Beatle comic. I never seen it before, so I picked it up. And the source was nice enough to give me not only my Adventure Club discount, but they had a coupon for 25% off stuff, not only at the con, but at their store afterwards. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. I did find some other stuff. I got, we've talked in the past about the miniseries World of Krypton. Some guy had some pretty nice ones for $2 a piece, so I picked those up. And then I know I've had this before, but I don't recall the cover. Marvel Feature number 4, which had Red Sonja on it with a beautiful, beautiful Frank Thorne cover. And I figured for $1, I'd be happy just to buy that for $1. It was just beautiful. Tons of graphic novels for sale. I went to one place where they were doing them 5 a piece. I picked up a number of volumes of Chew, 6, 9, and 10. I've got to put those together. I picked up a book from Larry Tye called Superman, The High-Flying History of America's Most Enduring Hero. And I'm kind of like, this is probably not going to tell me anything I know, or maybe even have some misinformation in it. But for $5, it's a pretty solid read. Plus, it's going to go into the art or the charity booth next year. A couple half-price volumes from people. I picked up the Archives, The True Story Swear to God by Tom Beelan. I didn't pick up the Archives before because this runs his series that he had which I believe it's published by Image, but this is the 17 issues he did self-published. And I figure, for half price, this is a good thing to pick up. And then there was a hardcover, X-Men No More Humans, original graphic novel, which again, for $2, it was originally a $25 hardcover. I'm like, well, some good reading. I mistook it for X-Men God Loves, Man Kills when I first bought it. But I'm like, okay, I still don't have a copy of X-Men God Loves, Man Kills, but now I have a new graphic novel to read.
I actually remember reading that. That was one when Marvel did some original graphic novels.
Yeah, I remember the
It was good.
Yeah, Mike Carey, Salvador LaRocca. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading this. And again, if I'm not going to keep it, I'll just donate it or put it in a free library somewhere. I mentioned earlier about the source. They had a coupon, not only that they were giving away, but they had some coupons inside of the actual book magazine that they gave away. I mean, the flyer was really nice. It's a thicker, glossy one. So Pat and I, since I was in no shape to knock things down, we decided to bail, and we stopped up at the source. He picked up a ton of supplies because he's gearing up for next FallCon. He's going to do a one more table. I know. His final. Well, to be fair, the last one...
He's been having final sales for 20 years now.
Yeah. Well, as he keeps going through his stuff, he's like, okay, this doesn't make the cut. This does. And then he'll revisit it like, I really am never going to read this again. And that's kind of what he's doing.
He's got to quit calling them final sales.
Yeah, I don't. Well, no, why not? We got Microcon all the time. He's just going to call it final sales. But I may also bring some of the stuff I've got sitting in the basement and do another purge. I got to look through it. I mean, I've still got boxes of stuff. So who knows? P&J may write again for one last time. But that's next year. Before that, we have the Walking Dead Day coming up on October 13th, which by the time this podcast drops will be 2 days ago. It's not too late, but you could call our good buddy Tim up at Granite City Comics and Games. They have an exclusive Walking Dead comic for that day, and I forget the issue number. Again, if you're interested, call them at Granite City. It's 320-259-5830. They only made 500 of them, and I asked him about that, and I said, you know what, hey, Cory, next time we have a question about incentives or things like that, because my information is so outdated, because I closed Crazy Comics 2006. We just drop a note to Tim. So if they're in the case of Walking Dead, I asked him how did you go about to do that? Because they're a smaller shop. They're not a big store like the Source. And he said, well, they said it was based on a number of factors, how big your store was. And as we already know, it's only limited to 500 copies. That's all he had to buy. So he decided to do it. I did ask Hans at the Source if they were getting that. And he said, no, the numbers they wanted us to get were just way too much. So not every shop, I guess, had an opportunity to get an exclusive one. Theirs has if you remember what Walking Dead 1 looks like, where Rick Grimes was sitting there, he basically just shot a shotgun into a pane glass window that says Granite City Comics. So the other coupon that was in this book was for Comic College. So, and all these coupons, basically you bring it into the store and get 15% discount off your purchase. So we went to the Source. Pat bought supplies. I picked up volume 2 of a book I raved about a while back called Marry Me. This was out of Keen Spot by Bobby Crosby and Chris Crosby. This is one of those that I mentioned. It's a romance comic, for better lack of words. A guy holds up a sign in an audience, says, "Marry me," and in the spur of the moment, the rock musician said, "Okay," and had him come up on stage. The thing was that this guy had no idea who the rock star was. He was holding the sign for his friend. It was her sign, and she, was a lesbian. She really wanted to get the attention of the female rock star. So I the guy's name was Guy Cooper was his name. He had an unwitting marriage proposal, and this is the second volume because they officially decide to tie the knot, and it's Marry Me, the big celebrity wedding. So I'm looking forward to read that. I also picked up another one of the few essentials that I don't have, and I gotta say, the supply of cheap essentials is drying up.
Oh yeah.
And I've really got to work hard to get them because I do. Most of the ones I'm missing are the later ones. I have the early ones. Matter of fact, I actually have some duplicates of some of them. There's some I just don't care about, like Wolverine 1 through 7. One of them, the Conan Essential, I just blew it out on eBay a while back, although I did keep the Godzilla one. I decided to pick up the 2-in-1 Volume 4, which is the last one of that particular.
They
I'm missing
reprinted
3.
all of Marvel 2-in-1, which amazes
I
me.
know. I know.
Except for one issue.
That would be 99, which had Rom in it. Because I noticed that.
It's 2 issues.
Oh, the one with Doc Savage. Yep. So there's 2 of them. Yeah, because I noticed as I was looking, I said, okay, blah, 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 98, 100, and then the annual. I was like, oh, that's right. That was the Rom issue. So, and again, I decided to do that. They had a ton of them, but I was sitting there going through my brain. Okay, that's over $160 I'll have to spend, even at 25% off. Okay. Besides, the Source's best sale, they got 2 more sales coming up. The Black Friday sale, which I don't know if we're going to hit that. I think Cory and I were kind of planning that as a geeking day before I go under the knife.
Yes, we are.
And then, of course, their best sale of the year, I probably may not be mobile, but they have a Customer Appreciation Day sale where people with that's their best discount sale of the year, and I may be out for that. So once I get mobile again, I'll probably be visiting a few more, picking up some stuff. That was pretty much it. I don't know, Cory, if you got any questions about the show or any concerns.
I did not make it over to the Half Price Book and Magazine sale for 2 reasons. The first is that I got busy over the weekend, and the second is that
whoa. Did you get busy or did you get busy?
I got busy.
Damn, that's so hopeful.
And the second reason is that I looked over the boxes of books that I have from the last few, and went, I haven't even read all of these. I don't need more.
And then you went to Dreamhaven twice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so it's like,
that was kind of one of the reasons for me. Because, like you said, yeah, I got all these books I haven't read. I got to be in a right mood to just, I know they separate things. These are science fiction, these are mystery, these are whatever. But I just wasn't in the mood to meander through, miles of books. I didn't even do that a lot with the comics. I just wandered every so often. If something caught my eye, I'd pick it up.
Now, were there a lot of omnibuses on sale?
No, not a lot of omnibus.
Marvel blowing all theirs out and DC blowing all theirs out. I think those days are done for a while.
So basically what's going to happen, I think the omnibus, you're going to have your one chance to buy it. Your second chance will be on eBay when they first ship, because that's how I picked up the Infinity War one. I didn't pre-order it for whatever reason, probably because there was a ton of other shit coming out that month. And we'll get to that when we get to the previews. So you'll still have the 2 chance, but after that, I would be willing to bet these are the ones, if you're looking for a collector item, the omnibus would probably be a good one to do, especially, for a guy like me. I picked up Master of Kung Fu 1 and 2, but I didn't pick up the Deadly Hands, the black and white reprint, mostly because of the cash. It all depends on the cash flow. And Marvel did it again this month. We might as well segue into it if you're ready. Should we look?
I'm just kind of here, I guess. I'm just kind of hanging out while you're talking.
Should we look at previews?
Sure. I got my.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Get to page 292 right away! Fast! Do it now! Please!
Okay.
Hurry!
Lovetown?
Oh my god! You're being obtuse. Death Ray Graphics Weapon Brown trade paperback by Jason Youngbluth. Oh my god! If you buy nothing else, buy this. This is to me, one of the most incredible graphic novels I have ever seen. I have raved on about it past shows. Go look them up. But basically, he takes all your beloved cartoon characters and comic strip people and just puts it in a post-apocalyptic world. The reading goes, Chuck is a cyborg thug stalking the wasteland of a ravaged Earth, trying to forget his past. Chuck being Charlie Brown. A past filled with torture, demon pumpkins, and a red-headed girl he will never see again. But when a psychotic man-child and his bionic tiger, I wonder who that could be, threaten humanity's last hope for survival, Chuck must decide if he's a hero or a blockhead. Oh, man, I absolutely love this. I had no idea there were copies available. I've never, ever seen them on eBay. If they are truly available, I would advise you go grab one now. Because even his website, when I went to go look, because the one I've got, I'm reading to pieces. And I got to decide if I'm going to buy this or buy something new. And usually I won't spend time saying, you know what, I already have it. Matter of fact, I don't think you and I do that much at all. I have this, but you should pick it up if you didn't. But damn it all, I'm going to say it. Buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it. Oh my gosh, I need a drink. Phew. Okay, now what do you want to do? Go back to the beginning?
Yeah, let's go back to the beginning. We'll start with Image.
And they got some stuff there too. I had to. I'm still thinking about it. I told Cory, because we're recording this on your rare week off, aren't we?
Yes, I am off until Wednesday.
And what's happening is I did all this in anticipation of the show, had it all ready, and then I left it at work. So I had to recreate it. But there's 3 series in the very beginning. And Image does that. All their new series are right away in the beginning that I'm interested in. And I'll do one, and then I don't know if you want to go round robin or what you want to do.
Yeah, we'll just do each series. I mean,
and right off the bat, right off the bat was Die number 1. Writer Kieron Gillen, artist Stephanie Hans. Stephane? I'm terrible with names. They know who they are. But it reads, it's a pitch black fantasy where a group of 40-something adults have to deal with the returning of an unearthly key an unearthly horror they barely survived as teenage players. And you look at the preview, it says in 1991, 6 teenagers sat down to play a role-playing game. They disappeared without explanation. No clues. They had vanished. They were found 2 years later in a forest 50 miles away. When asked where they'd been, they could only respond, I can't say. No one ever found out where they'd gone or who could have taken them. They're just glad they escaped. The year is 2018. The teenagers are adults. They're about to discover no one escapes. And the first thing, I looked at this and I was like, I don't know. Do I want to wait for the trade? Do I want to pick up the first 6 because it's an ongoing series? But then I noticed in the first picture where these guys are sitting around, there's 6 of them. When they return, there's only 5 of them. And in 2018, there's only 5 of them. You got my attention already. So if I buy this, I haven't decided if I'm going to buy this as a series or I'm going to wait for the graphic novel like I did with the aforementioned Chew. Let's see where the other 2 are. There's one called The Freeze. The entire human population is frozen by a mysterious global event, all except Ray, and he only he has the power to unfreeze them. Now, with the fate of the world in his hands, he's got to figure out what's going on, how to set things right, and to answer the question, does everybody deserve to be saved? Looks like another series. Writer Dan Wickline and artist cover Phil Svei. I shouldn't even bother with the names. I'm probably going to offend somebody. And then the other one that caught my attention is a mini-series. And usually the mini-series are enough to catch me because I know I'm not committing to a full series. Prodigy, number 1 of 6. This is from Mark Miller and artist Raphael Albuquerque. Hey, I got one right. 2 right. Edison Crane's not content being the world's smartest man and the most successful businessman. His brilliant mind needs to be constantly challenged. He's a Nobel Prize-winning scientist, genius composer, Olympic athlete, an expert in the occult, and now international governments are calling on him to fix problems they just can't handle. So I might, again, these are 3 books. I haven't decided, do I want to buy the comics? Because again, if I get the first 6 and I decide I don't like it, I know I can blow them out on the eBays. Do I want to get the books? Because if I really like them, I'd rather just keep them as books because they're easier to reread. So it just sucks to be me sometimes. How about you, Mr. C? What did you see an image that got your attention?
Nothing new, really. There was none of the new books really jumped out at me, so I'm just still keep buying the stuff I'm buying. Next month, I'm sure that will change because we get the Return of Criminal and some other big name stuff. But this month, really, the ideas for, I saw Die and said, wow, that will read much better as a trade paperback.
And usually Image does that $9.99
Yeah.
first trade, so it might be cheaper to do it that way.
Hardcore looked pretty interesting to me because I like Andy Diggle's writing, but again, trade. So much I would, that's where I am. I'm going to buy this stuff as trades, especially after, we'll get to the Image book that I fell in love with that is already over.
Uh-oh, which...
That'll be in the Freaking and Geeking.
Oh, okay, we'll get to that then. Okay. Want to move? Yeah. Go ahead. Just when you're ready.
Nothing really big with Image. I did want to take a look at. We get the penultimate issue of Mage.
I know. I've been picking up the graphic novels, and I know I'm just going to pick up the omnibus. You hear that? I want an omnibus. Everything. Or even if you do 1, 2, 3, I don't care. I just want an omnibuy.
And then next was Dark Horse, where there were some things that jumped out at me.
Like?
Well, the first thing that jumped out at me was, I have heard about mind management from Matt Kent for ages. And once again, I did not jump in on the beginning of it. So I've waited, because one of the things that Dark Horse does is once the series is over, they put them out as paperback omnibuses. They just did that with Conan. Those are all finished up. And I got to tell you, it's much better because they collect the mini-series and the one-shots, and you don't have to keep track. It's all there, the whole thing. So they're doing that with Mind Management, which was a New York Times best-selling series. This global spanning tale of espionage explores the adventures of a journalist investigating the mystery of a commercial flight where everyone aboard loses their memories. Huh. There's almost a TV series like that just started. Wonder where they got that idea. But they're putting this out. It's Mind Management Omnibus, The Manager in the Futurist Part 1. It's $25 for 400 pages. And then the next thing is Joe, do you remember when they put out the prequel to the movie 300, like 3-4 years ago?
Yes.
The comic is finally done.
Yes.
So I will be picking that up. I did not pick it up as individual issues because I knew I'd be picking it up in the same format as the 300, so they'll sit next to each other on the shelf.
Yep, that's definitely on my list.
And although the price, $30 for 104 pages, but still it's Frank Miller, and I know that Frank Miller's. There are a lot of people who do not much care for Frank Miller's new art style. I enjoy it. I understand it's an evolution of his style, and I know nothing about this other than it's a prequel to the 300, and I fully expect that the art will be amazing, and people will look at me as if I'm crazy when I say, oh wow, this looks so cool. Because I felt the same way about Dark Knight 2. I felt the same way about Holy Terror. And when I went into reading Holy Terror, he said when he started it as a Batman story, it's gonna be propaganda, as if it's the propaganda story that was in his head, much like how comics were propaganda in World War II, and people were offended by it. And it's like, you do realize that he's doing World War II style propaganda. Never mind.
Never mind.
And the other thing I wanted to point out, I'm not buying this because I already have a much better version of it, but the EC archives continue. The one they are printing for this month is Piracy. Piracy was not going to be one of the one of the New Direction books. It was actually started before the Comics Code. It was a series that they wanted to do as introducing a new series, but only one issue came out before the Comics Code, so it usually gets grouped into the New Direction series. This is a anthology series from EC about pirates. And let me just, again, written by Weinstein, drawn by Wally Wood, Jack Davis, Al Williamson, Graham Ingalls, Reed Crandall, Bernard Krigstein, who does some beautiful, beautiful work in this, and George Evans. Those are the name artists. Again, a murderer's row of comic artists, and these are EC stories. They're not the watered down stuff that came from the New Direction. And again, it's just a spectacular art in this book. I have it in the big box sets that they did in the 80s and 90s. And if you've not read these stories, again, EC, you're never going to go wrong picking up an EC book. You're always going to get great art, great stories. And Al Feldstein was the writer, so it's going to take you quite a while to get through because, boy, he liked to write. For an artist, he really liked those captions. But it looks like they're getting near the end of the EC stuff, because I know they've finished up the all of the horror books, the science fiction books, and I think they're just now starting to wrap up the New Direction, because there were 3 areas of EC. I don't know if I've talked about this, Joe. There was pre-trend, which was the stuff they published before they started publishing horror. They had kind of a crappy crime comic, Saddle Romances, which was a Western romance comic, A Moon, A Girl Romance, which was a romance comic that spun out of the comic Moon Girl, which was the only EC superhero. And then the stuff with the Haunt of Fear, Tales from the Crypt, Mad, that was all called the New Trend. A new trend in comics is how they sold it at the time. And then once the Comics Code came in and they had to cancel all their successful books, EC is going in a new direction. And all of the New Direction books only lasted between 4 and 6 issues. So they're finishing up the new trend stuff. Joe, what did you see with Dark Horse?
That's about it. Just the Frank Miller hardcover and the 2 I buy, Strange Things and Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Now, shall we jump into DC?
I think we should.
All right. What jumped out at you at DC?
Only 2 things, and they're back in the books. Nothing in the series. Matter of fact, I may be dropping Justice League because it's got that point where I know I've read them. I don't know what the hell's been going on in them. And that's never a good sign for any comic I'm reading, especially at $3-4 a pop. So I don't know if I'll jump back in later, but I may be ending Justice League. But on that, like I said, on the plus side, though, I starting Shazam. And the weird thing with DC, something's going on because of the shipping schedule. I'm going like, okay, wait a minute. Where's Action? Where's Book of Magic? They put a note in there that because of the way the shipping schedule runs, that those will be showing up next month. So my DC order is going to be very light this month, and probably a little heavier next month. That's the way. I hate it.
And
That's just the
comic
way it is.
shops aren't real happy about that sort of thing either.
No, no, it's that shipping skip week on December 26th.
Which in the past, for the past few years, they've actually had books out that week.
Yeah, they went out of their way to do a bunch of one shots and like here's kind of an event of everything. And maybe it's because they had that goofy move, or they just I don't know, maybe they didn't sell, but nobody even put any forethought into doing anything like that.
And one other thing they did, because I remember reading about it at the time, they actually shipped the books the week before, but told people, okay, these are the books for next week. Don't put them out till next week. And knowing comic shops the way I do, they probably put them out early, and they said, well, if they're not going to follow the rules, why bother?
Yeah. And so that's what you get. You get a week where you're not going to have a lot of sales. Any series you saw that caught your eye?
There was one that is returning from the 80s.
Uh-oh.
And I enjoyed this kind of stuff. New Talent Showcase #1. And what it is, it's going to be an anthology book. It doesn't say how often it's printed. It doesn't say anything other than here's the first issue. It's 80 pages, prestige format. I like New Talent Showcase because a lot of times you get people who, have been kicking around for a while, have learned their craft well enough, but they have to be able to tell a short story. So a lot of people really swing for the fences in these. If you read the New Talent Showcase in the 80s, a lot of people who were in that went on to do great things. Some of them just kind of, you never saw them again. But I like this kind of thing, and I want to support it because I think it's important for new talent to get into comics. Regular series, there was nothing new that I was jumping at. But boy, when you get back to the back, there were a couple of things that I want them now. First off, boy, they're putting out a lot of reprints of stuff that they've done before. New printing of Batman Shaman, which was the first 5 issues of Legends of the Dark Knight, which, boy, did that kind of started the whole variant cover thing accidentally. Batman Troika, which is kind of a bunch of Bane stories all together. Let's see, Batman by Neil Adams, Book 2, which I bought as a hardcover, and then they put it out as an omnibus, and now they're putting it out as paperbacks. They're doing the absolute of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. I'm not going to buy it as an absolute because while I like it a lot, I would rather have it as an omnibus. I don't need it as the great big slipcase, whatever. There were a couple things that annoyed me. They're putting out the DC Metal series.
Metal.
Yeah, they did it as hardcovers. Now they're putting it out as a trade paperback, and the Dark Days Metal actually has 2 issues that were not in the deluxe edition hardcover. If I had bought the deluxe edition hardcover, I'd be pretty pissed because the deluxe edition should actually have more than the paperback. But Joe turned to page. What page is this?
56.
Yes. Detective Comics Before Batman, Volumes 1 and 2. This is the first 26 issues of Detective Comics as 2 omnibuses slipcased together.
Now, obviously, we're not talking to you billionaires out there who probably, have your own personal copies of Detective 1 through 26. But for those of us mere mortals, this is probably the next best thing. Because they're saying a lot of these have never been reprinted.
Yes. This stuff has never been reprinted. This is before Superman, before Batman. You've got Slam Bradley, which was the first comic series by Siegel and Schuster. It's got, I don't know if they're authorized or not, Fu Manchu stories.
I would imagine at that time period, 1937, probably not.
Yep. Um, this is not something I'd recommend for everyone, but if you are interested in Golden Age comics, this is actually pre-Golden Age. This is 1935, 36, 37. Um, it's funny that I've seen people go, "Oh man, that's just so much." For the number of pages you get, it's cheaper than the Final Crisis. It's cheaper than Infinite Crisis, because those are what? Those were $150 books. And if you go online, you can get it at pretty much half price from
Oh
our
yeah.
friends at DCBS. But I'm very excited about this. I also find it really interesting that, if you look, the what is it? The Absolute Swamp Thing. That's coming out next. This is coming out in March. So I don't know if it'll be out before or after the Detective Comics 1000. But if you flip all the way, if you look in your previews, it actually, yeah, there's a couple other omnibuses that are shipping sooner than that. But really excited about this one. And I don't expect that many of these stories will be good. But as a historical document, it'll be fascinating. I'm hoping that they have some really good extras in there. Some essays, some historical data. Um, I'm excited. As somebody who likes the history of comics, I'm excited about this. And then I'm much later in the book on page, let's see here, 62. Mr. Miracle by Tom King and Mitch Gerads. Cannot recommend this enough. The final issue is not out yet, but they have no reason to believe that they will not stick the landing on this. And this is goddamn amazing. I wish they were putting it out as a hardcover. But since they're not, buy the trade paperback. This is good stuff. It is a resolicit for some reason, because they've solicited it before, but now it's oh, sorry, we're putting it out this time. Another one that I want to point out is Superman Kryptonite Deluxe Edition. And what this is a reprint of the story in Superman Confidential. In the 2000s, in the aughts, they did a Superman Confidential, a Batman Confidential, and a couple other confidentials. And what it was, this was another series where they would get high-power creative teams to do just do one story. And then, okay, that story's over. The next high-power creative team. This was Darwin Cook and Tim Sale. And this is beautiful. And the story was really marred by the fact that the final issue was delayed for almost a year. So if you're able to sit and read it all at once, Tim Sale's art, you can see from that cover, he's got a very unique style, and Darwin Cook, one of the best comic creators of the past 25 years, really gave the characters a mythic feel. Cannot recommend this one enough. And then there's a trade paperback of Wonder Woman by Walter Simonson and Jerry Ordway. These are great stories. Walt Simonson does great when he does stories about the gods, and Jerry Ordway's art. Why are you not giving him more work, Marvel and DC? So those are the ones that I'm pointing out.
I've only got two. The first one I'm getting, Lobo by Keith Giffen and Alan Grant, Volume 2. I enjoyed the living bejesus out of the main man in Volume 1, so I might as well pick up number 2. This has Lobo Infanticide, Death and Taxes, Lobo 58, and his two run-ins with the Authority, Jingle Hell and Spring Break Massacre. How can you not love those titles? Right above it, and where I'm on page 61 for you, those of you counting, Justice League of America Omnibus Volume 3. I don't have one or two.
Age.
Or Bronze Age. What did I say, silver?
Nope, You didn't say any of it.
Oh, okay. Well, it's an omnibus. That's all I care about. But what it is these are the issues that I started collecting Justice League with. My first one was 161. That's where a tarted up Zatanna showed up in her new bodysuit. And Jerry Conway, Julius Schwartz, I think Dick Dillon was doing the art, and went forward. And then, of course, I was able to go backwards. And I think I don't know how far back I went. I wasn't sure if I was going to buy this series or not. And this one's still on the to be determined list because I know I can get them, well, probably not cheaper than in the omnibus, but I'm worried that, you can spend that money only to discover, yeah, these series didn't hold up the way I should have thought. So those are the only two things from DC that I would give pause and think about. Well, Lobo I'm getting, but anyways. Next on our list, IDW. And there's only a couple things in IDW I'll probably pick up. First one is Ghostbusters Crossing Over, because you know me, I'm a sucker for a good crossover, and this deals with 8 issues of the Ghostbusters Crossing Over series and the annual, where the female Ghostbusters from the movie from 2016 decide to, they realize the original Ghostbusters have access to interdimensional portal, but the other Ghostbusters in different multiverses do not. And obviously they don't think that's fair. So I think somehow they are able to cross over because there is a threat that is too powerful for any single team to handle alone. And if I recall, I think we see the Ghostbusters, the female Ghostbusters, the ones from the comics, the ones drawn from what we'd consider the movie, the original Ghostbusters, which was a totally separate group, and of course a number of other different ones. Probably one from a mirror universe where they all have little goatees on it. But as a story, I know I picked up onesie twosies here and there, but I think this would be fun to read in the total run. The other thing, other than the continuation of Star Trek versus Transformers, which I've enjoyed, they've pretty much with Unicron series stopped and finished the 13-year run of Transformers at IDW. And people are like, oh my God, they lost the license there. No, they didn't lose the license. They just realized after 13 years, it was time to maybe reset and reboot. And maybe they might have gone overboard tying in the entire Hasbro universe together. Who knows? But they have something called Transformers Historia, which basically condenses, probably in prose form, the entire 13 years of publishing history and remembering the stories of the first IDW Transformer run, because they'll be coming up with a second one. And since there's no way in hell I'm going to go buy those 13 years, I've had miniseries and bits and pieces, and I did pick up the Unicron. I am just going to read this and be happy. But I have noticed it looks like a lot of the other Hasbro lines have kind of disappeared. So maybe they're going to reboot. We talked about GoBots, which you talked about last time we reviewed previews, and that's technically owned by Hasbro. But I think maybe they'll just have them as standalones. And rather than hit you over the head, just bring it in gradually as you can't force a universe. You just have to kind of let it expand slowly. So, anything IDW jump out at you?
The first thing is, last month they started a Spider-Man book. This month they got an Avengers book. I don't know if I'll be buying it because it's aimed at kids, but I do think it's fascinating. And remember, last month they did a tease for the Rocketeer, and I looked at the solicitation for the Rocketeer, and I am not interested in any way, shape, or form. It's been almost 80 years since Cliff Secord first found an experimental jetpack and soared through the skies as the Rocketeer. Now, decades later, the Rocketeer is all but forgotten. His jetpack is found.
Ouch.
Could not care less. I'm sure that the people involved are going to do their very best work, but the reason the Rocketeer was cool it was because of Dave Stevens' love of that 30s aesthetic, the Art Deco design, and his art. The story by itself was no great shakes. It was all about the art. The artist they got, Javier Pulido, is okay. If you're going to do a Rocketeer story, you got to find somebody who's phenomenal, who's amazing, who blows the doors off. Not interested. Sorry. Really, there was nothing else that jumped out at me other than the fact that there's no haunted horror or weird love or even any Yo books.
Yo.
So,
Cory, you know we're all about interaction when we do this stuff, right?
we are.
So
We are.
Take your previews catalog, flip it over, and go to page 38.
Okay.
Now, you know one of my favorite internet guy is Bat Dad. Well, here's your chance to emulate him by picking up your Batman Night Missions basic role-playing mask. And you, too, can become Bat Dad.
Hey,
Don't forget to do your squats.
You've got a voice changer mask. Isn't that better?
No, because you got to do it yourself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you don't want to be a fake Bat Dad. Damn, why didn't I think of this shit when I was... Dana, I'm new Bat Dad.
So, Joe, anything at Dynamite?
Just the Battlestar Galactica. Nothing new.
Yeah, there was nothing that excited me about what they're doing. They do licensed books. And if you like licensed books, cool. And if you don't, well, you'll skip over a lot of it. And that's okay.
It's okay. Now, the guys who still get the majority of my money, despite me trying, although I'm resisting, let's go to Marvel. It's hard when your first book's Marvel. You just have a natural Infinity Wars for them.
And this wedding is actually going to happen, by the way.
Yes. Yeah, I had to.
I like that Dan Slott has said, by the way, this wedding actually happening.
Actually happening. Don't worry about it.
Fantastic Four number 5, which is also Fantastic Four number 650. The Thing and Alicia Masters get married.
Yay! So, very cool.
All I can think is one of the things they're going to have to do, one of the reasons why, and because remember, everybody else in the Fantastic Four could become human again, but the Thing couldn't because he was scared that Alicia would not love him if he were the Thing. And then they broke them up, and they really haven't done a good explanation as to why he can't become human again. So hopefully that sometime soon they'll figure that out.
Yeah.
But knowing Dan Slott, he'll have a good explanation for it. There's also a Fantastic Four wedding special written by Gail Simone and Dan Slott.
I am all over that.
Oh, yeah. So that's what you got on the cover. By the way, that John Byrne oversized vinyl poster is from Fantastic Four when he did the Sideways issue.
Yep. Oddly enough, this month they did Fantastic Four villains in the True Believers where they reprinted an issue for $1. I don't think I'm getting any of these. Mainly because I have them all in my essentials. So if I really want to read them, I can. There's nothing here that I haven't read already. And that's really, for me, what would get me to buy a True Believers. And while I was...
I'm going to let you know, if you've not read these, this is all Kirby stuff.
Yeah,
it's Fantastic
absolutely.
Four. Let's see, number 2, number 8, number 15, number 18, number 20, number 35, number 36, 53, 62, and 65.
There she blows. Yep, no, read them all. So for me, the only one I really thought about was Molecule Man. But then again, I've got them. Like I said, I've read them. I got them in the essentials. If you've never read them, oh hell yeah, pick these up for $1. This is probably some of the finest reading you'll ever had. And I believe, and Cory can contradict me if I'm wrong, and you know I never am. Most of these are done in one.
Yes.
So it's not like you're going to be, okay, this is part one of
Well,
a
the
50-part
early
crossover.
ones are.
Okay.
Once you get into the 30s, it's a soap opera, so they never really have the end at them.
But I mean, if you were sitting there, okay, the main fights between FF and Dragon Man, yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably done, but then they always have something. Oh, but oh my gosh, the Frightful Four are here for the following issue, and they probably are because we go from 35 to 36. So maybe that'd be the two to pick up. But then you don't know what 37. They're trying to make you buy the what do they call them? Not the essentials, but the epic collections. You've been warned.
Well, that's one of the things they do with these. It's basically their ads for the trades or omnibuses or whatever they're putting out. Because like the Marvel Knights, you read through and it's like, oh, you want to read the next part of the story? It's in this book and this book, and on Marvel Unlimited.
And I will give you just a brief beef, but in reality, okay, so you've got this nice setup. The Defenders are coming back, which was one of my favorite series I read. They're doing it kind of in an asshole-ish way because first of all, there's 4 books of $5 a piece that apparently all lead into Defenders 1. And I'm kind of like, okay, so $20 plus the Defenders 1. I don't know. Is this going to be like how I'm having problems with Justice League? If I don't buy the 4, I'm going to be reading Defenders and not know what the hell is going on? Or
What it
is it?
is, they're doing this as an homage to the original Defenders book because if you remember, the story started in Submariner and then went over to Doctor Strange had been canceled. So it's, oh, okay, well, here it's going to be in Submariner, and then it's going to be in the Hulk. And, then it's a 3-parter that shows up in Defenders #1. They're kind of doing an homage to where the Defenders originally came from.
So is this even a series, or are they just a bunch of one-shots?
Nope, it leads to a new series.
So I could skip it all, save myself $25, buy the graphic novel for 15. Yeah, it's Marvel; it'll probably be 50, and then just wait for 1 to come around. Because I'm like, if you're really going to push this on me, you should be using your true believers to have a bunch of Defender one-shots, or maybe you will when #1 comes around. I don't know.
Probably.
So this is all a big question mark for me because it's a lot of clams to be dropping on one-shots, and I'm just not sure it'll be worth it, or should I just wait for the inevitable graphic novel and just jump on board with 1? Because on the very next page is a much better series that might be more fun to jump on.
Well, I'm a little disappointed because I liked the Bendis Defenders book. And the way it ended, it was set up for that series to continue. It's just no one grabbed the baton. And we've had this group before, and how many times have they tried to restart the Defenders with these 4 characters?
I don't know. You should, any series. Yeah.
Superior Spider-Man looks interesting. It's written by Christos Gage, who worked with Dan Slott a lot. Has done a lot of work at Marvel over the years. His stuff is okay. But the next page is the one that I'm excited about, Joe.
Dun, dun, dun.
Miles Morales Spider-Man, written by Saladin Ahmed. You probably remember me praising the Black Bolt series. He's the guy who wrote it. So I am so excited about him taking on Miles Morales. Because if his stuff is as good as his Black Bolt was, this book's going to blow me out of the water. I'm really excited about it. The artist, Javier Garron, I don't know much about his stuff. I did like him on Ant-Man and the Wasp. So I'm looking forward to this, and I think it's going to be interesting because no one has written Miles Morales other than Bendis. Spider-Geddon keeps going.
And going and going.
Infinity Wars keeps going.
Going and going.
X-Men Disassembled keeps going.
Going and going.
But those are the new books that got me excited. And then back in the trades.
In the trades, the What If Classic, I will definitely be picking up. It has issues 1 through 12. I'm not even sure what I have in my collection anymore, but it'd be fun to do that. I will probably pick up the Miss Marvel Epic Collection because this is 1 through 14, a Marvel team-up, and a Defenders appearance. Again, issues I no longer have, so this would be a fun way to do it. Although, again, I have them in the essentials, so I got to stop and think about it. But that's not what you want to hear us talk about. You want to hear Cory and I rave about what omnibuses of the 25,000 Marvel are offering this month are we going to anchor down our home for the winter with.
Well, we talked about them a little last week. Infinity War.
Yeah, I think I'll probably bite on this one because I don't have it. You know, it'd be fun to read.
And I remember I
liked
Infinity War. It was Infinity Crusade where I went, well, that was a misfire. But this has got all the crossovers. It's 1,372 pages.
Yep. Yeah, I think this one definite.
And then the one on the next page is the one I'm most excited about, and this is Infinity Origin Omnibus. It's basically all of the Thanos stories up to Death of Captain Marvel.
And
including Death of Captain Marvel.
See, for me, I have these in paperback in various forms, so I'm not sure I want an omnibus of them. I might be more interested in the one right across from it, where it's Infinity by Starlord and Hickman. But again, I have them in different formats. I'm picking up the new Avengers ones. I have those already. I still have Infinity in comic format, and I've got the Infinity Gauntlet.
Infinity is also in the new Avengers, the Hickman Avengers omnibuses.
Yeah, and I have the Infinity Gauntlet omnibus. So I'm maybe not as I don't know. I'm kind of wishy-washy on this one because I definitely will get Infinity War. The other two I've got in different formats, and I don't know. Do I really need them in an omnibus form? Probably not. But if you don't have them, oh man, that Thanos 4. If that had come out before, if I didn't have any of those books, I would be all over this. I mean, it's like when I bought the Starlord book at the con. I don't have those appearances. Of course, if they come out with a Starlord omnibus, I won't buy it because now I have it in paperback form.
I think they pretty much have all the Starlord appearances in that book. There's not enough for an omnibus.
And I kind of they could go further on, but, and then some of these, it's like, okay, well, I've got the complete Captain Marvel and I've got the complete Warlock in paperbacks. I know I've got the annuals as comics. I've got a copy of Logan's Run 6. I think the only one I really don't have, and I talked about it last month, was the Marvel graphic novel #1. And I'm just flipping back. Did I actually buy it? Nope, I crossed it out. Because again, last month there were just tons of shit I wanted, but I had to make a decision to try to keep it under wraps. So I can always pick it up later. Not the omnibus, I mean the Captain Marvel. So those are the ones I'm kind of excited about. Anything else that you're a must buy?
For me, the first thing that became a must-buy, decades. Marvel is going to make a big deal out of their 80th anniversary, which, I got to be honest, is a little weird.
No, it's a selling point. They'll do it again.
Yeah, but the 75th anniversary I can see. 80th, but still, these trade paperbacks look cool because Marvel in the 40s reprints the Human Torch versus the Submariner stories. I have these in various forms.
Yeah. And I was even talking about the one paperback, or it was a comic book that I had, and I think it evaporated in my purge a couple of years ago, where the ending was just, you decide the ending, and this is what the ending was. And I was like,
Well,
really?
it was you decide. That was their first fight, and you decide the ending. And in the next issue, that was in Marvel Mystery Comics,
Yeah.
they did a one-page where okay, the Human Torch got away, and they decided they'd fight another day. But this has Human Torch #5, which is the fight where New York City gets wiped out by a giant tsunami. Uh, and the story behind it is almost as cool as the comic because basically all the artists who were staff artists at Timely got together in a hotel room over a weekend and just made it up as they went, passing the page around, and people would draw, and the writer would say, "Oh, do this, do that," and it sounds like it was just putting the story together was insane. And the story itself reads like crazy talk. And it's one of my favorite Golden Age stories because it's just, all right, these two are going to fight and they're going to throw everything at each other. And that was back, if you read other Golden Age stories at DC, Superman's fight was basically he figures out who to punch, punches him, the end. This was no. This fight lasted on every page. The next one will be the 50s heroes. And if you've not read those stories, those are kind of odd in a way. And we'll talk about those when they come out. The one for the 60s is going to be Spider-Man teaming up with different Marvel superheroes. And then for the 70s, it says Marvel in the 70s, the Legion of Monsters, which, depending on what stories they choose, could be a lot of fun. But I like this idea. And again, we're a little jaded because we've been buying this stuff for decades. So they've reprinted this stuff before, but if you haven't read it, it's really interesting to read the really early Marvel stuff. Now they've got the Darth Vader trade paperback #4, which reprints Darth Vader 19 through 25. They've announced that the current Darth Vader series ends with issue 25. Just like the last one did. So, not buying those trade paperbacks. Going to do like I did with the first one. They'll put it out as an omnibus, and I'll buy it as an omnibus. What else was there? You talked a little about the Ms. Marvel stuff. Captain Marvel now.
Now I did. They do have Avengers No Surrender trade offered as I think it's on page 132. It's not marked. It's a page number, that is. I enjoyed this once I got them all lined up and read them in one sitting. This was kind of the tail end of the 2006 Avenger run. So reprints 675 to 690. I think they were doing, was it weekly then or every?
Yep.
Yeah.
Came out weekly.
So this was good reading as a book. Like I said, I had to get all mine together, and I just sat down and ripped through them all, and I thought this was damn good. Of course, Mark Waid was writing it, and he had a little help with Al Ewing and Jim Zub. I just wanted to say his name, Zub. So I recommend, if you've never read it, pick it up. And then they got Marvel Knights. Whatever.
Let's see, what is the Marvel
big
Knights? Oh, they're more of the Bendis Daredevil.
Usual suspects.
The Epic Collections, they've got the end of the Peter David run on Incredible Hulk. And then they've got Moon Knight Epic Collection #3. This is the best issues of Moon Knight and then a bunch of shitty ones. Because it's got the last ones where Bill Sienkiewicz finally became Bill Sienkiewicz. And Doug Minch, where they really were experimenting with what they could do with superhero stories. And really this was great stuff. And then when they left, nobody knew what to do with the character. So you had Alan Zelnitz and Tony Isabella and a few other people trying stuff. And they weren't able to capture that same sort of energy and experimentation. So if you read it, you're really going to love the first 2/3 of the book. And that was really about it for me.
That's it for me, too. Now we
Although,
get
boy,
into
the Conan comic boxes look cool.
yeah.
I also
Now
like the fact on previews, cover of previews, Conan the Barbarian #1. It's not
not
in
this
this
month. Yeah,
month.
I know. I was kind of like, wait a minute, did I miss something here? Am I picking the wrong previews from the previews catalog? Oh well. Now, as far
Little,
as all the other books go, I may have to go back and relook at them, but I didn't see much that really excited me, except, oh my God, Avatar Press is blowing out all their graphic novels. I am going to buy
again.
every freaking one that's got. You put Alan Moore, you put Warren Ellis, you put Guy Dennis. I am buying every freaking one, and then the hardcovers at $12.99. There's one I recommend. New No Hero. I read the soft cover, and I think it was $29. Here's the hardcover at $12.99. Warren Ellis. It was fantastic. Super Gods looks interesting. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're just having trouble with the cash flow. I mean, we've talked about last one. IDW was announcing a loss, so maybe the guys are just like, you know what, we got to raise some money and get rid of this stuff. Oh, $2.99 graphic novels. I am all over that. A lot of these are like comic book size, but they are done in one. So it's not like I did not see any like volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. So I was like super excited, and I will just all the $2.99s. I'm just getting one of each. Everything else, I will probably the hardcovers. I'll just kind of look, and there are some other ones: Night of Living Dead, Gravel. So, oh my gosh, I'm drooling here. I'm out of water.
Another thing I want to point out is there aren't any new books being published by Avatar that month.
Nope, nope.
So,
Just like they did a couple months ago when they had a bunch at $4.99, and I think I've read one of the few that I got, and I think she's got a hardcover here, didn't she? Was there a Yeah, oh no, over in the $12.99 hardcovers, Anna Mercury. There's a hardcover, so definitely worth reading.
on page 251 on Altus Press, Wild Adventures of the Spider, the Doom Legion. This is a novel using the character the Spider. It also has Operator 5 and G8 and his battle aces from Will Murray, who writes the Doc Savage novels, who writes a lot of the crossover novels.
Who starred in Stripes and Meatball?
No. He did create Squirrel Girl, though.
Oh, you had me at Squirrel.
And he wrote about half of the Destroyer novels. So if you read the Remo Williams Destroyer novels, I like his stuff. I really like him writing pulp fiction. The Spider was kind of like the Shadow, if the Shadow was even more violent. I read one Spider novel where over 100 people were killed by him, many of which were just thrown off buildings.
That's what happens when you don't give a man his coffee.
But yeah, the Spider was kind of made and the Shadow was really violent in the pulps too. But as the Shadow used his 45s, the Spider used machine guns. Over at Archie, there is a new Marvel Comics Digest, this one highlighting Miles Morales.
Oh, yeah. Those are good reading.
So I'll be interested to see what stories they choose for that. None of the other trades really jumped out at me from Archie because they've been dipping into their past a lot, which I like. Let's see, what else do I have marked here? I do have the Weapon Brown marked.
Oh, have you ever read that?
I have not, but you've talked about it so much that it's like, okay.
I am so eager to hear your review of it. I mean, I am absolutely thrilled with it, but that's just me. I tend to be a zealot about what I like.
Fantagraphics, dipping into the undergrounds again. This time it's Ink and Ambush, a Jay Lynch anthology. If you read Playboy, the Playboy funnies back in the 70s and 80s, Pat and Nard were by Jay Lynch. Jay Lynch did a lot of comics back then. Let's see, it reprints stuff from Boogeyman, San Francisco Comic Book, Bizarre Sex, Teenage Horizons of Shangri-La. samples of his wacky packages, Garbage Pail Kids, and other tops chewing gum. The only thing I don't like about this, it's kind of a best of rather than the other books that have been, here's all of this character, here's all of this character, here's all of this character. But Jay Lynch is someone who I don't know a lot about, so I am looking forward to this book from Fantagraphics. Over on the other side, they have 2 new from Fantagraphics Underground. I need to research those before I get interested in them because, I'm interested in the Undergrounds, but I've never heard of these creators. What else? Because you said that you didn't have a lot in the rest of previews,
Not
right?
really. I mean, there's stuff, Punchline number 3 from Antarctic, which I've talked about, Batman RG5, Knights of the Dinner Table, Keiju Max is back. Source Point has a end of a 3 issue called Ogre 3, and then of course back issue 110, which is kind of a Marvel theme this month. But yeah, all in all, just not a lot of stuff, which I suppose is fine, because I'm probably going to go nuts with Avatar. But I look and I stop and I read the descriptions, and especially if it's a number 1, if I'm going to jump on it. But you may find things that you're interested in. I mean, there was the Wallywood Christmas book that was out of Vanguard Products, or if you're...
Yeah, my problem with Vanguard, because I have the Wallywood, what's the other one that they have?
Daredevil Aces?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And, man, Vanguard's always had this problem where their books are priced stupidly. The Wallywood Christmas book, $10, it's a 32-page book. Wallywood Daredevil Aces, it's 180 pages for $40.
Oh, the deluxe slipcase edition for $70.
Yeah. So I like Wallywood, but man, the prices are just way too high. Titan doesn't have any of their books listed. Joe, please turn to page 347 of previews.
All right. 347. I noticed.
You have an extra $1,500 sitting around.
I thought about that, but I just don't know about that.
Roy Thomas has been talking about he's writing a book with Stan Lee about Stan Lee's life, and I was excited about it. And then it's, here it is. Oh my God. $1,500.
Well, wait a minute. We do order through Discount Comic Book Service, so it won't be an actual 15.
I think it's $1,300 through them.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, that's the retail price, so.
No, it's $1,300 through.
Oh, 13. I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Limited to 1,000 numbered copies, each signed by Stan Lee.
Okay. Now, if Roy had signed it, then you got something. I got a lot of Stan Lee autographs.
A couple other books I want to point out. Let's see. Trish Trash, Roller Girl of Mars Omnibus on page 338. This is by Jessica Abel, who's mostly known as an editor, but also does comics. We've had her at the Minnesota convention a few times. This is a really fun book. It's, let's see. 200 years from now, Trish Trash lives on the newly inhabited Mars, whose settlers live under harsh and ruthless conditions. Trish dreams of only one thing, becoming a hover derby star. It seems like making the professional derby team is the only way to escape a future of poverty on her parents' farm. Collects the whole story, 200 pages for $20. But then back in Oni, Gorillas Omnibus Edition. This is a book I had heard about a lot, but I'd never picked up. And what it is, this is Private John Francis Clayton on his first tour in Vietnam, facing death at every turn in the middle of a war he doesn't understand. Clayton is just trying to stay alive when he encounters an elite platoon of simian soldiers. This squad of chain-smoking chimps is the most dangerous fighting force in the jungle, but whose side are they on? And the reviews of it have been fantastic. This gets reviews outside of comics. So it's the entire series for $40. And I've heard enough good things about it. I'm going to pick it up. But those are the ones that really jumped out at me this time. There wasn't a lot in the merchandise that I looked at, although there was some merchandise that dropped at New York Comic Con. I have to, well, Joe, you know I have to go to Walmart to buy the DC comics, right?
Yeah.
I have to go to Walmart again.
Because?
They're going to have the Spider-Mobile.
Oh, fun. I'll make a deal. If you see it first, pick me up one. If I see it first, I'll pick you up one.
Okay.
I mean, I have one already, but it'd be fun to have one I could open.
No, this is the Funko Spider-Mobile.
Oh, well, forget it. I don't do Funko. I have the Hot Wheel. I thought that's what you were talking.
No, it's a Funko Spider-Mobile.
I'll say it with fun. It's Funko. Boy, you'll get me convinced.
We have some people you don't need to go to Walmart to give them your money.
True.
These guys, our sponsors. Promotional consideration is paid for by the following sponsors. Our first sponsor is DreamHost.com. DreamHost.com has been with us since the beginning. They're the best web host in the whole known universe. And if you need a web host, and you do because, Facebook, Google+, everything gets hacked. But if you set up your own web page, it'll never get hacked. Unless you kind of make some mistakes or pick an easy password like password. But still, you can have your own web page. If you use the code KRAYZ, K-R-A-Y-Z, you get $20 off your first year. When you're at the office, do you often run to the vending machine for snacks? Those things are terrible for you. Instead, have snacks delivered to you. So go to Graze.com. Graze.com has healthy snacks that you can decide what kind of snacks you want, how often you want them, whether they get delivered to you, or if you choose them every time. I myself get the subscription box every 2 weeks so that I have healthy things to eat when I'm at work. You can get a free box by using the code CORYS3R5P. Matter of fact, use that code your fifth and your first box are free. Again, that's CORYS3R5P. If you'd like to advertise on any of the Solitaire Rose Podcast Network shows, you can. Just send us an email at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks. And Joe, the first episode, The Fantastic Forecast, either dropped last week or this week.
Cool.
So we've got all kinds of podcasts coming here. We even had a new episode of Novelcast.
Oh, from when's the last one? I mean,
May.
So let's see. I can flip back to my main, see if I downloaded it. Nope, I downloaded it.
So you know how I get a day off, I go nuts.
Pretty much.
I've had 5 days off.
I thought I heard you going blah, 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 before you turned on the mic.
So, yeah, we got podcasts lined up for the next month and a half. I've even got the next three bad advices locked and loaded and uploaded, and they will drop on the day they're supposed to automatically.
Oh, you are getting so fancy.
I know. But here's me talking a little about those podcasts. And now that we're done with all of my plugs, now we get to Joe's favorite part of the show. No, not where we give him a cortisone shot in his head so he can put up with me. It's Freaking a Geeky. No, that's my favorite part of the show.
Yeah,
it's Joe. What's going on the eBays?
Slow but steady. Things going out. Sold a set of Transformers Best of UK Dinobots 1 through 6. The Best of UK series was kind of interesting because when Transformers comic came out, they published them as weeklies over in the UK in big magazine size things. I used to have a really significant run of them, but they didn't have enough materials because the Marvel US did them monthly. So what would happen is they would get gaps where they would fill it in. A lot of this stuff was never published in the United States. Titans would, I think they did a bunch of large, oversized graphic novels. And then when UK got the license, or I should say IDW got the license, eventually over 2008, or 2007, 2008, they published them as miniseries. There were some fun ones, like they had one where I think it was Galvatron came back came from the future, and followed by Ultra Magnus, neither who had been introduced in the Marvel comics yet. So they were floating around and fighting, and the UK comics were never referred to in the American versions. And so to suddenly find out that there was oodles of stuff that they had, well, I picked up all these books when they came out, and I might have even picked up a few in graphic novel format. That seems to be a theme of our buying habits. I don't know if I have it, but I'm going to buy another one because darn it, it's just cheap. Even at the con, I heard people doing that all the time. And of course, your next chance will be at MSP Spring Con. They're bringing it back, the name we all call it and love, 2019. It'll be May 18th and 19th, and they'll be at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds Grandstand.
So they listened to us.
They did. And of course, you don't have to sweat it because they won't have advance tickets until April 15th. And I imagine after the con from a weekend ago or so, they're probably all in olden sleep, but you can still keep an eye on mcbacomiccons.com to get more details. And of course, I imagine after the first of the year, we'll probably be getting more. But mark those dates down now. I say that because I've got to, take my vacation in stone for the entire year next year. So we'll see what's going on with that. Meanwhile, on eBay's, I sold my collection of Archie Meets Glee. Cory, I knew you were nothing but a Glee fan. Tell everybody about Glee.
Glee was a show on Fox that followed a Glee club. So basically, it was an excuse to do a musical TV show. I never watched it, but I did watch the Community parody of it, which was one of their best shows. And, now
and I gotta say,
sit here and think about how much I loved that episode of Community.
The only one I ever watched was they did a spoof where the Glee Club was going to put on a Rocky Horror Picture Show, and the Community balked at it because of the adult themes. They did sing almost everything from Rocky Horror Picture Show, and a lot of times I would have been sitting in here doing my eBays, and my daughters and my wife loved watching Glee, and I would hear the music, and I would just, I used to sing in choir in high school, so for me to hear even covers of these songs was kind of fun because the music was good, and then the plot lines were kind of insipid, at least in my opinion. But Archie met him. This was back in 2013, and I had the only set on the eBays. Not anymore. It's gone. But if you want to see what's left, and I've come to the conclusion, and I'll get to it a little bit more when we get to Freaking and Geeking, that as I get closer to my hip operations, I probably will have to shut down the eBays, at least for a while. So if you're looking for something or you see something that I've got, just make an offer. The Archie Meets Glee, I had it listed at $40, but somebody gave me a half price offer and I took it. So, and again, for you guys, our esteemed listeners, I'll even toss in an extra freebie or two because Lord knows I got tons of stuff to be blowing out. Probably won't be adding too much, although you never know. As I turn the corner and find things, I might throw it on the eBays. So that'll probably shut down for a little bit. I don't talk about it much, but there's also a website called The Toy Peddler, and I don't really. It's mostly Hot Wheel cars. Occasionally, I'll talk about comics and things. One of the greatest misses I ever had is I went on there and I was looking at the comics, and this guy had runs of Hulk comics selling them in fours. Guess how much he asked for the run that included Hulk 181?
$10,000.
You had it first syllable right. $10. And
what?
It was gone. I couldn't get my fingers in fast enough to get this. And I almost felt like sending an email and say, do you realize you just sold a comic worth $1,000 for 10? But so I didn't get it. They do have a lot of other things there, but their main push is Hot Wheels, Red Lions, Matchbox, Johnny Lightning, NASCARs, things like that. And I, of course, being that I'm going to be incapacitated, I have some things there that I'll be liquidating And it's under the same name, Krayz, Krayz. So check the sites out. You might find a bargain you really like. And like I said, the toy peddler, I'll probably just be shutting down until I'm recuperated. eBay's will shut down until I can walk up and down the friggin' steps. So, and that's all she wrote.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show. No, not where I start a fundraiser to buy that Stan Lee book. It's Freaking and Geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
One of my buddies got married.
I can see why that would be a nightmare.
Well, for you, yeah. I mean, you gotta get a better class of raccoons, if you know what I mean. Clean raccoons. They're very clean. But
not the ones I know. They asked somebody else to clean their stuff for them.
Good night, everybody. We'll be here next week. Quiet, Joe. You're gonna get sued. This is a friend of mine, big on the Marvel movies. You know, if he's off Mondays, we'll go catch him. And I figured, you know, I told him about the Infinity Gauntlet comic. I don't believe he read it, so I figured, you know what? As part of his gift, I will go get him an Infinity Gauntlet graphic novel. Looked high, looked low. Nobody had the Infinity Gauntlet trade. I'm like, how could you not have it? This is like almost one of the perennials you have to have. And we make a list of them almost annually. You know, Watchmen, Marvels, Kingdom Come, and you know, now Infinity Gauntlet. And of course, the problem is that people are thinking, oh, I got to buy the Infinity War. And I think it was even one of our own buddies from the con that I was explaining to. Infinity War is just the name. You want to get Gauntlet because Gauntlet is more what they based it on. And we hunted down a copy a couple cons ago for him. So I was a little disappointed. It's not a big deal. I mean, he is on a honeymoon, so when he gets back, I'll probably have it ready for him. But I was kind of disappointed. You would think a big book like that somebody would find. I don't have a lot on the geeking side because I was all ready to sit down and read comics. I got back from the Comic-Con. My wife was out with my sister. They went to see a play, and I thought, you know, I got a couple hours till I get back. Let's sit down, you know, check my eBays, do a little, and also power outage. I know because my phone instantly lit up the room because, you know, I had it charging at the time, and when it powers down, off, it lights up. But the computer died, and you stop and you listen. Furnace is off. No lights in the house. I peek out the blinds. No lights up and down the block. I even walk down to the block, and I say, okay, it's a localized one because, you know, 2 blocks over, there's a traffic light, although the traffic light down the block is totally out. Across the street into the golf course, their lights are on. So I get back, call the number, report it. They didn't know about it. Only 2 of the 3 flashlights we had worked. I didn't necessarily want to use my phone before it disappeared. Lit as many candles as I could find and just sat back and enjoyed the ambiance. Too dark to read, even though I could see my stack of comics. And I thought, well, this is kind of comfy. I'll just kind of sit down and maybe just relax. Maybe do that meditating Cory tells me about. Maybe gonna beep, oh shit, everything's back on. Turn off all the, you know, blow out the candles. Okay, I still got a few minutes to go. Oh, here comes Chris. Missed my opportunity. So when we're done here, I'm gonna go read me some comic books. So no freaking on the hip watch side. So we'll get to that on the geeking side. Cory, what are you freaking on?
Well, we talked a little about it earlier. I was in court today because of my accident. And I don't care what anybody says, even if you know, because I knew walking in it was going to be a fine, it was going to be this. It's still stressful. And there was one woman who was there for, what?
Sorry, I just thought I'd give you a little ambiance background music.
She was there for not transferring a title correctly and no insurance. But because she had tickets outstanding in Missouri that were years old, she got thrown in jail for it.
Dun dun dun.
And she was the first one they talked to. And when they, when you go in, okay, you fill out your demographic information, you talk to the prosecutor, then you sit down and you wait. She was the first one in. They had this big plexiglass booth that she came in because they had held her since she got her ticket last week. And then they were like, okay, do you have proof of insurance? Yep, here's my proof of insurance. Oh, you did have insurance. And the title transfer? Yep, here's the title transfer, what it was. She'd bought the car from her mother, and they just hadn't done the paperwork yet. So her mother said, no, she bought the car from me before all of this. And the judge said, okay, well, we're dismissing both of these charges. What's the state of Missouri say? And the bailiff said, state of Missouri said they're not going to pick her up. So she had to stay in jail for a week, and everything got dismissed. And all I could think was, how do you explain that to your job? Yeah, it's not. They're not going to give you, oh, well, that's your PTO. Those are sick days. Nope, they're probably going to hold it against you. So, as for me, I just need to go for a year without having another accident, and they are going to do. Basically, the insurance companies are still fighting out over who pays what. And because they haven't completely settled their stuff yet, I still have to wait until it's settled before the case is completely dismissed. So that was really, really stressful. Comic-wise, there was so much news coming out of New York Comic Con. Even with the days off, I haven't had a chance to read and digest it all. But boy, a lot of stuff. And I can see now why Marvel didn't go to San Diego. Because they dumped all kinds of news in New York, and they ate up all the coverage. Whereas if they would have done their news announcements and stuff in San Diego, no one would know because it's all movie and TV stuff. So I think for comic news, you're going to see more and more where it's just going to be coming out of New York Comic Con. By the way, New York Comic Con had more people than San Diego because they had 250,000. Whereas San Diego, the most they can have is 150,000. So the times they are a-changin'. Joe, what are you geeking on?
Well, I'm announcing the Strode 500,000. We're all going to meet next Monday morning, sometime outside Chaska city limits. As soon as Cory leaves the house, first one to run him off the road's the winner. So, and we'll meet every Friday and through Monday since then, and we'll get. Never mind. I got a GoPro Hot Wheel. What you do is you take the little GoPro and you stick it on the Hot Wheel and you run it down the Hot Wheel track. I thought that was kind of neat. Anyways, the only other thing I'm geeking on is for Hip Watch. It looks like everything's go for the hip. I got all my doctor appointments lined up. So I will be going under K-Knife on November 29th. I can't imagine, something could happen between now and then. I mean, some crazed Chaska car could come careening around the corner and run me off the road. I say that because that almost happened. I was going down the hill. It was a 2-lane road, and right next to a big truck. It was one of those trucks that picks up trees and drops them inside. And the van in front of me took a quick swerve into the left lane in front of the truck. Actually, a place I was thinking of going because, I'm like 2 miles from my left turn onto the highway thinking, oh, okay, I'll do it. But what it did is it opened up the road. So I accelerated and I passed the car taking a left turn. So it was slowing down. And a block later, I hear bam. And in the rearview mirror, I see said black van that cut into the truck careening off to the right. The truck kind of wobbling slowly into the oncoming traffic lane. Fortunately, there was none. And the two cars, the one that was turning left and the car immediately behind that, not going anywhere. A little satisfaction because I didn't mention the dumbass white car that kept going lane to lane, as if he switched lanes faster, that one of us would move and let him zip by. So my guess is he got embedded on the truck. But all I could think of is, thank you, pie gods, I just missed being in an accident. Even if I had stayed in the right lane, I could have been swerved. And then you're thinking, should I stop? And well, I got nothing really to say to the cops. I heard the noise and saw the results. And had it been 10 seconds sooner, that would have been in my freaking column. But it isn't. And, I'm not one to say, oh, there, but for the grace of God go I, because you'd be thinking, well, why did God like me that day and really hate these 5 people? It's just not the way the cosmos works. What was I talking about? Who cares? Cory, what are you geeking on?
This was a beautiful weekend for us nerds. Saturday, well, actually, Friday, the Venom movie opened. I saw it on Sunday.
And quick review? Ooh.
I've been reading reviews. Reviews of it aren't very good, but the people who go and see it like it. I thought it was a great action movie. There was a lot of humor in it, and I'm not a huge Venom fan. I've never much liked the character, except when he's a villain. Anytime they try to turn him into a hero, it just doesn't work for me. But I like the movie as an action comedy. Special effects were really good. The only problem I had was in the final fight scene where he's fighting another symbiote. The CGI and the way it was filmed, I don't know what's going on other than they're fighting. But a lot of fun. It did get a Stan Lee cameo. There were 2 post-credit sequences. One that sets up the next movie, and one that sets up for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. New Doctor Who with the new Doctor. Um, I the story was probably one of the better. Here's your introduction to the Doctor stories, because the last couple have not been very good. It was an extra long episode, which leads to a mini freaking. BBC America showed it. They did a global simulcast, so everybody saw it at the same time. So here in the U.S., it was on early afternoon. But if you waited till 8 o'clock, you got an extended version of it. And all I could think is, well, why would you that's stupid. But in watching the extended version, it was real easy to see, oh, they cut out crap for all of the extra commercials they crammed in it. But still, I like the new Doctor. A lot of the stuff I'm reading online is very positive, and a lot of the female fans, and since Doctor Who came back in 2005, there have been a lot of female fans. Female fans are over the moon, and that makes me happy. So the new Doctor looks to be really good. I'm excited about that. And we had a WWE event in Australia that I haven't watched yet, but from what I hear, it was also really good, and it also had the final match between Triple H and The Undertaker, with Shawn Michaels in Triple H's corner and Kane in The Undertaker's corner, which means that the Saudi Arabia show, we're going to get a tag team between them, which means Shawn Michaels is back in the ring. I actually did social stuff this weekend because I didn't have to do sleep shifts at the group home. Although, oh my God, did they keep twisting my arm. I put in back in June for this weekend to be off, because it's the last weekend before open enrollment begins, and it's the last time I can take vacation time until December. And they approved me to have the weekend off back in August. I was called, texted, and emailed by each one of the supervisors asking if I could do a sleep shift or come in and work a shift during the day. And it's, I have this weekend off. But is there any way I have this weekend off? Went with my friend Dice up to the Dead End Hayride in Wyoming, Minnesota. I went last year. It's a fun haunted house hayride thing. One of the better ones. Very well put together. It takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours to go through the whole thing. And she did not tell me that we were going with a bunch of her friends. So I met a whole bunch of new people. And all I had to say is, you mean people do things on weekends other than work? And mop up ponds of poo? Really? That's what people do? And then Sunday morning, I went to the first show of Venom with my, I don't know, what do we call her? Former roommate, foster child, Evelyn, and my friend.
How about future hot dominatrix?
That's for you.
Yeah, I know. And believe me, I feel guilty about it. But never mind.
Why?
I don't know, because I always thought of her as your daughter, and I got to get that out of my brain.
She didn't date your son.
Hey, keep it in the family, relatively speaking.
But went with Evelyn, and then...
Hang on a second. Chris, can I have a son? Okay. There you go, Strode, spreading fake news again.
Yeah. And was going to meet Lyndon and Lyndon's boyfriend Morgan, but they went to the wrong Shakopee Theater. So while we were sitting watching the Ultra screen in heated recliners, they were at the old Shakopee Theater sitting in the old chairs. And
well, serves them right for not coming to our podcast.
Yes.
That's however, one you haven't listened to yet, so don't worry about it.
We did meet up for lunch, and so I did all sorts of social things over the weekend. And it's been a long, long time since I did that, Joe. Is this what people do when they have weekends off?
I don't know. I usually don't have weekends off.
I haven't had weekends off my entire adult life, so it's kind of weird. The other thing I'm geeking on, I had to go to Walmart to get the DC books. Their DC selection is much improved.
Which is weird because they were selling fast at the con. And believe me, they weren't selling for cover price at the con.
So maybe I should give you some of the extras I got. But they have issues 1, 2, and 3 of everything.
I know Gruber wants the Justice League ones other than that.
Okay.
And I know there's some one-shots coming out. I may pick those up.
I got the first one-shot. The first is a Halloween one-shot. And the Swamp Thing story in the beginning is good. The other stories are great, but then they reprint a Neil Adams Batman Halloween story and the first Swamp Thing story ever. So for $5, that is a hell of a good package. The other stories are good too. You get a JMS story. But no, it's a really nice package for $5. But the Neil Adams story. It's the Neil Adams story that was suggested by Bernie Wrightson and Harlan Ellison, where Batman goes to the Rutland, Vermont costume parade, which was a big thing in the 70s. But in the past it was, they're sold out, or the copies are beat up, or they've got, they have some but not the others. But obviously DC is, they had 3 displays at the Walmart I went to. 3 displays. They had a big stack of number 3 of each of them, some of number 2, some of number 1. They were sort of prominent in the section they're in. So, and with DC saying that they're looking to add 2 more series and some special one-shots, they must be successful. They got to be selling.
I wonder if either somebody took it or they just gave it away, because some guy had the actual display that they had originally. He was trying to sell it for like $70 at the con. Because I was pointing it out to Pat, because he's like, I don't want to go to Walmart. I said, well, here's the display. That's what you're looking for.
And I thought, it's right inside the front door. You just go, and it's usually right inside the front door where they have the baseball cards and all the sports memorabilia and everything. And
that's why I'm curious how this guy got it, because I wasn't going to ask him, because what'd you do, steal it? Have somebody take it? Because I don't think Walmart's giving them away yet.
No,
but whatever.
But other than that, that's what I'm geeking on. Believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on for almost 2 hours about comics coming out in the future.
Cool.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
If you sit on the toilet at 11:59 p.m. and the clock strikes midnight, it's the same shit, different day. Hit my music.